Thank you, Daniel and Matt. Please help me welcome Sam Lee, President and CEO and Director of NorthIsle Copper and Gold Inc. NorthIsle is developing one of Canada's most promising critical mineral districts on Vancouver Island, with a strong focus on copper, gold, and sustainability leadership.
Thanks very much for having us. It's great to be back in Quebec. It's been probably 35 years. I was last year playing in the Quebec Pee Wee hockey tournament, and clearly that career path didn't work out for me. But incredible city, incredible conference. Thanks very much for having us. So here at NorthIsle Copper and Gold, we have one of the largest, highest return, lowest capital intensive copper and gold projects currently not owned by a major, and it's probably one of the top projects in Canada, if not the world. I will be making forward-looking statements. What is justifying this comment is a PEA that we released a couple of months ago. It boasts at analyst consensus pricing at $4.20 copper and $21.50 gold, an IRR of 29%, an NPV after tax of $2 billion, a 1.7 times NPV after tax over CapEx ratio, so extremely low capital intensity. It's about an equal copper gold project, so if you want to look at it from a copper perspective, it's about 160 million pounds of copper production for 29 years life of mine. If you want to look at it from a gold production perspective, it's about 310,000 ounces for those 29 years. So second to none with a 1.9 year payback period. It is extremely sensitive to gold prices because there's about 7 million ounces indicated in the project PEA. At $2,900 gold and $4.60 copper, this boasts approximately a $5 billion after-tax net present value. This is something that is very, very rarely seen in the copper space and has really contributed to the lowering of our capital intensity and the increase of our IRRs. So my past profession was I ran CIBC's global mining practice based out of many regions, but most recently out of Vancouver. And when we look at projects, we look at 4 metrics. We look at capital intensity, obviously size, return, and life of mine, so materiality. And so usually when you look at projects, you see projects that are top of class, if they're lucky, in 1 or 2 of these categories. We are top of class in all 4 categories, which makes, again, this proposition extremely unique. We are now chosen to develop and move ahead with this project, given this very strong political environment in Canada. In 30 years of working in the natural resource industry, I have never seen such alignment around natural resource extractive industries in Canada and starting in BC. But we have not taken the eye off the ball as it relates to our 35-kilometer porphyry district, for which we've just scratched the surface with respect to the exploration potential. The reason why we're able to have generated this incredible PEA returns is through good exploration around the higher margin at surface areas, which we will continue to do at Northwest Expo and West Goodspeed. The drills are turning. We had fully funded program last year in December, and we've been drilling for about a month and a half now, and we'll continue to drill throughout the summer and into the fall. We have been one of the top, if not the top performers across our peer group for many reasons, most of which I just described, but we also are big shareholders of the company. Our insiders own approximately 20% of the company, and among 5 key cornerstone shareholders and insiders, we own about 45% of the company. In addition to that, every raise that we do, we make sure we do not include warrants, which obviously have a capping structure on the capital structure. We do not issue traditional flow-through offerings, for which, we all know that that shares come back at you after 4 months. So we are very protective of our capital structure, which has also driven our success. We're covered by 4 analysts, and across the board, we have outperformed our peer group. So we have very aspirational goals at NorthIsle, and some people, quite frankly, are scared of that. But if you take a look at our board and management team, and you recognize these people, these are people that have led some of the largest, if not the largest, gold and copper companies in the planet. And so that's what drives our aspirational goals. And throughout the last 4 or 5 years, we have achieved stage gate every single goal that we set out. And we have consistently grown value, not only through the drill bit, but through our development strategy. Just to put that in context, every drill program we progress, and we've done 4 in the last 4 years, is approximately $7 million of drilling specifically. We have been able to surface about $20 to $30 million of value as measured by market cap for every program. If you look at our share price chart, that is what has happened. And so now we're at a point where we have taken what we've been able to develop in the last 4 years and really activate this, this company through the great leadership that we have. So in terms of that political environment that I talked about in BC, there's been 18 projects that have been identified as priority critical metal projects. We are one of that 18. Just recently, the BC government has identified the top four to be expedited, and our goal is simply to be part of that next announcement of expedited projects within the next 2 years. So where do we live? We live on the northern part of the island. We're approximately 500 kilometers away from Victoria. So to put that in context, it's pretty much a further distance that Toronto is from Sudbury Complex. So quite a bit of a trek from the southern part of the island. Everything north of Campbell River was actually built for this mine called Island Copper, which was developed and produced for over 24 years by BHP. So none of this existed prior to the 70s. The BC government plus BHP used this opportunity to build this infrastructure across that, which includes power, roads, ports. There's one of the closest deep sea water ports from continental America to Japan, which is where they sold their copper and moly concentrate. That all exists within a very, very tight envelope of where we live. This is where we live. This is our 35-kilometer porphyry district that pretty much starts from the BHP historical Island Copper mine that was in production from 1970s to 1995. That's what it looks like today. That's the port just to the southeast there, and again, that port goes right through the island and to the historical trading partner in Japan. There's also a wind farm that produces an excess 100 megawatt of capacity generation. This is owned by one of the largest European power conglomerates, and this just gets wheeled into the substation, BC Hydro substation, which is only a few kilometers away from Port Hardy. Our PEA that we announced just a couple of months ago contemplates 3 open pits, 2 in the northern corridor, which I'll talk about a bit later, but that's essentially the area that has informed this 65-70% EBITDA margin as part of phase 1. So the reason why these numbers, these economic numbers are so eye-popping right now, it's because of that phase 1 high margin, high grade activity that we have discovered over the last 4 years, and we will continue to add on to that tonnage and grade in that phase 1 as we progress this project. Excuse me, as you can see here, there's been a lot of drilling, a lot of historical work that's been progressed on the project through about 40 to 50 years of progress, not only through the government, but through Utah, BHP, Lumina, a number of companies that for which the data we've inherited. The profile that really impacts the returns and lowers the capital intensity is through this phased modular approach. So phase 1 effectively is paid off within 1.9 years. So that $800 million US, 1.1 billion Canadian capital is paid off within 1.9 years of internal cash flows. And then past that point, the cumulative cash flows as identified in the green line here doesn't hit below 0 or below $100 million from that point on. And that's how we're able to fund the additional secondary capital that essentially gets you that phase 2 29-year life of mine. So again, we're not focusing just on exploration. That is a really key point here. We are focusing also right now, we're drilling on this northern corridor that we have identified, again, this higher margin rock, 65 to 70% EBITDA margin rock. Of the 3 discoveries we've made, we've obviously identified 2 deposits, Northwest Expo and Red Dog, as part of our mineral resource estimate. The third one is West Goodspeed. This hasn't been identified in the mineral resource. We made the discovery last year. We've now drilled over 23 holes on it. We've reported about 16 of them. And what we're seeing there is that this is holding the grade, it's holding the size. It's actually bigger in terms of its strike length, 1 kilometer, and it's starting to attach itself to the most southeasternly project at Red Dog. So it's only about 100 kilometers away, sorry, 100 meters away from Red Dog, which we now believe is attached to it. So that's the area of focus, one of the areas of focus. This is essentially the northern corridor that we talk about. This is West Goodspeed with a 1 kilometer strike. Northwest Expo is where we see the 1 to 2 grams high grade at surface gold zone that we believe is going to be extended towards the northeast. So the second phase of our program this year, which we're starting imminently, is to go after that causative intrusion of that high grade surface intrusion of about 1 to 2 grams per ton to the northeast. And then the third part of our exploration program, which is fully funded, is going to look to extend the strike distance of West Goodspeed, which is currently 1 kilometer. We're looking to connect it with Red Dog, which would add another half a kilometer. And so therefore this trend, which currently sits about 5 kilometers long, could be in fact a 5 kilometer strike by the end of this drill program, which would make it a tier 1 world-class discovery that we've made over the last 3 years. And then, of course, the third and the final proposition here is this big buried porphyry. So there's a number of companies out there, there's these copper companies out there that just exclusively focus on these big buried deep porphyries. Obviously, they're all trying to emulate and trying to have the same success as the Filos that just got taken out by BHP for $3.5 billion. Well, we have that proposition in our contiguous 35-kilometer district. It's probably best said by Alex Davidson, who just joined our board about 2 months ago. For those of you who don't know, Alex worked at Barrick for many, many decades. He's pretty much responsible for all of their assets that came from the Barrick side, not the Randgold side. And he had defined this and described this as a potential world-class district here. And so what would make this a district as opposed to just a project would be Pemberton Hills. That is effectively our deep buried porphyry that is pre-discovery, but we have advanced it to the point where we're quite confident now, where we believe there's a very targeted area to start drilling on. So that really is the overall nutshell as it relates to the project description. I think in terms of the political environment, we could all agree that whether you're the opposition party, you're the incumbent, whether it's municipal, provincial, federal, First Nations governments, everyone is aligned on the fact that the only way to reestablish our sovereignty or reestablish our economic independence is through natural resource extraction, and it's to find global partners. Well, we literally sit on tidewater on the west coast, and we have all of that infrastructure that's currently built within the context of a mine that is 80,000 tons per day, i.e. the BHP Island copper mine. And with respect to what is very important in Canada and in British Columbia especially, is that our First Nation partnerships are extremely important to us, and it's culminated into consent agreements that the government of British Columbia has in fact progressed as part of their mandate on how to expedite and prioritize projects within the provinces. They took the model from our initial model, which is consent from First Nations first, then go through the permitting process. And what we saw as it relates to receiving our permits was that we actually received our 5-year, multi-year asset-based permits, which usually in British Columbia and other parts of Canada and Peru and Chile take about 12 to 24 months to receive. We got ours in 14 weeks because we had these consent letters in place as part of our applications, because we have the will, because we have the support of these First Nation groups. And that is what is going to drive the expedited nature of projects in British Columbia and in Canada. And we have been publicly recognized for all of this. This is actually me receiving the King Charles III Coronation Medal from our Premier because of the work that we do around consent-based decisions with our critical metals projects in British Columbia. So in summary, this is a transformational year. It is going to continue to be a transformational year. The next 6 months is going to be critical, pardon the pun, for the company. We are now walking and chewing gum at the same time. We're developing one of the best projects in Canada, if not the world today, and we're continuing to make it stronger as it relates to improving the economics, higher margin material through good exploration in the Northern Corridor. So in the next few weeks, we're going to start releasing our results, and in the next few months, our strategy around the development is going to become a lot more transparent, making the next 6 months most likely the most transformational period of NorthIsle Copper and Gold. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.